Yeah, easy for you to say, Wayne. It's a great morning for you because you sat right here at this desk on Friday and you all but guaranteed your Packers would win easily at my Cowboys. And you were so right. And I was so wrong to even remotely trust Mike McCarthy and Dak Prescott as 7.5-point favorites at Jerry World, where they had only won 16 straight games. Yesterday, the Dallas Cowboys got exposed as gutless, heartless, leaderless playoff frauds. Flawed frauds. That was by far the most shocking and devastating and humiliating playoff loss in Dallas Cowboy history. My lowest moment ever as a lifelong diehard Cowboy fan. Not your typical fall on your face. This was all-time. I threw all my Cowboy gear in the trash last night, and it will stay there. Mike McCarthy has to go today. His replacement has to be, to me, Jim Harbaugh, not Bill Belichick. We'll get into that in just a few minutes. And there is no way Dak Prescott deserves a big contract extension now, not after throwing 2 first-half interceptions, 1 a pick six, that led to Green Bay 27-0 before halftime. Not after Dak Prescott got into it early with CD and somehow made him mad. I didn't see that coming. Jordan Love is so much better than Dak. I'd love to see if Trey Lance can turn into Jordan Love. Now, would you believe, I hope defensive coordinator Dan Quinn gets a head coaching job. Now I'm not so sure he will, because how do you sell 27-0? How do you sell 48-16 with 6 minutes left in the game? Micah Parsons, he's so overrated. He had the worst pass rush game of his entire career yesterday. Only 1 pressure, 0 sacks, 0 tackles for loss, 1 solo tackle, and 1 assist. Are you kidding me? January 14, 2024. A day that will live in Cowboy infamy. Okay, but enough from me. Let's see what Michael Irvin and Richard Sherman think. Michael, please, you first. Can you talk me off the ledge? What in the name of Jimmy Johnson happened to our Cowboys yesterday?
Listen, this was hard. This was a hard one. This was a hard one. Even watching it, and I would have to sum it up first and say this was a coaching spanking on both sides of the ball. I mean, Mike McCarthy took a coaching spanking. Dan Quinn took a coaching spanking. There is no getting around it. There's no getting around it. I look at this and I say, wow, you had 4 teams defending their home turf this weekend. Houston said to Cleveland, who everybody had favored, not in our house.
Not in our house.
Not on our watch.
Nope.
Not in our city. So, Kansas City stood up and said, I know what we went through all year, but not in our house.
Not in our house.
We're not dropping 1 pass, not in our city.
Nope.
Not on our watch. Detroit, who a lot of people had the Rams, including me, going in and beating Detroit. They said, not in our house.
No.
Not on our watch. Not in our city.
Preach.
And then Dallas, the most recognizable. The best franchise in the world. The most valuable franchise in the world. And I get a head coach that says, we were not ready to play. Unacceptable. At that place, at that moment, right then, right there, say we were not ready to play is unacceptable. You cannot say, how are you not ready to play in this game with everything on the line? You got home field advantage. You won 16 straight games at home and you show up and do that. That was all out coaching. Started out with you get an offsides that turns into a touchdown. Now, we could have had a field goal, stop to a field goal, but it turns into a touchdown. You come back on a special team blunder, we get a pass interference with the fair catch. It's like, then we catch a punt in the 5 or 6 yard line. Like, what is going on
what
here?
is that?
All of this is discipline stuff. All of this says you're not ready to play a football game that there's no way in the world you should not have been ready to play. That's why this is so disappointing. To go in there, and I told you guys, I said, I'm worried about this. If this team jumps out early, it's Armageddon.
You said
and that's
that.
exactly what happened.
was
Once
Armageddon.
they jumped out, they turned around and handed that ball off, and there was nothing you can do. What irks me to death, I can take you losing a game. I cannot take, you have 3 people in the National Football League. I mean, I didn't see anybody around these 3 guys. Musgrave down the sideline. There was nobody in sight. It's like everybody left the field. It was. You see Dobbs running wide open. These are design plays that they have studied your defense and come up with, and dominated it. They hit those areas and they dominated, and there was no answer for anything. When they ran the football, Skip, there were gaping holes. These were not somebody squeezed through, somebody ran over somebody and made hard yards. There were gaping holes.
Buffalo all over.
It was, I walked away saying, there's no way you retool. There's no way you do this again. There's no way you do this again. There's something has to happen here. I can't believe that the Dallas Cowboys took that game and played that way at that time. That's unacceptable.
Skip, Irv, I hate to be the one. All year, I was called a hater. Cowboy hater. Sherm, you're just a hater. You just hate the Cowboys. You hate the Cowboys. And I told you I was just being realistic. I was trying to save you and your fans from this kind of disappointment, because the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and over, but expecting a different result. Skip, for the last 28 years, they have done this. This team has done this. So
well,
until
not
a
like
team
that,
proves,
but they've done this, but not that.
Well, Skip, you asked for a historic season. You asked for a historic ending, Skip. That's what you asked for. And they gave you a historic ending. They gave you the most points ever given up in the history of this franchise. They gave you the first team in the history of the National Football League to lose to a 7th seed. So you asked for history, and that is what you what you received. And I tried to tell you, and unfortunately, this team hurts you worse than your worst enemies ever could, Skip, because they took you to the top of the mountaintop. They said, hey, at home, at least at home, we are unbeatable. We're going to convince our fans that we cannot lose at home. So if we get home games, our fans are going to have no doubt whatsoever we're going to win this game. And then they took you to the top of Mount Everest, and then they dropped you on a bed of nails. And that's unfortunately what they did. But throughout the season, they have shown the propensity to do this. They have disappointed in just about every big game that they faced where the expectations were high, where there was something on the line. There was a winning team on the other side. Outside of the Philadelphia Eagles game at home and the Seattle Seahawks game at home, they have disappointed, really. And this game, it showed every one of their flaws. Your big-time players didn't show up in big-time moments. People always ask, what makes great players great? It's the playoffs.
Right there.
It's the playoffs, unless they don't get there. You know what I mean? Some players never get to the playoffs, so they never get to show that. But in the playoffs, that's what separates the really good players from the greats, the elites, the gold jacket wearing Michael Irvins of the world. It's when you get to the playoffs, do you show up in a big game in a big way? And your defense, if you want to be number one in the world, you're number one in those playoffs, and you make the plays that you have made all season during those moments to get your team where they need to go. And they didn't. Winners focus on winning. They consistently focus on winning. They focus on what they can do better. They focus on how their team can improve. Losers, though, they focus on winners. And throughout this season, your team has focused on the winners. They focused on the Philadelphia Eagles, who went to the Super Bowl last year. You hear Jerry Jones, Philadelphia Eagles. I'm watching the Philadelphia Eagles game against this. I sure do hope the Philadelphia Eagles. Man, I'm watching San Francisco, and I sure did like how that looked. But you're not focused on the food on your plate.
No.
And that's where they need to get back to. So everybody else can get the blame, but Jerry Jones is just as distracted. And like Irv said, they were out-coached on both sides of the ball. Give Matt LaFleur and Joe Barry a ton of credit. They came up with incredible game plans. And the first touchdown the Dallas Cowboys got in the first half, I mean, it was a false start. That should have been wiped off the board immediately.
It was.
So we tried to prepare you, Skip. I did not see CeeDee Lamb having a rough first half like he did, and he and Dak Prescott being off in the way they were. I don't even understand that. That seems like something more off the field. Irv can speak to this, but anytime you and your quarterback, I think that CeeDee Lamb has some of the best demeanor for a receiver that I've seen in the National Football League. He's calm. He's even-keeled. Things going great. He's the same. Things going bad. He's the same. He doesn't get super demonstrative. Give me the ball, yada, 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 yada. He may ask for it later on after the game behind closed doors, but he never shows his quarterback up, his coach up. He does a great job. And in this game, you saw a little bit of the body language. You saw a little bit of the, like, what are we doing? What are you doing, Dak? Like, how do you miss that? You know, where he's looking at him and he's kind of like, what are we doing? And I've never seen that. And then you hear Dak kind of having those conversations with him. So I hope somebody really explores that later on and it gets to the bottom of what happened there, because I didn't understand that. But the bad thing, Skip, is next year, no matter what happens, you can fire the whole staff, you can do whatever you want, you're going to get worse because you're losing Tyron Smith, you're losing Biotish. You got to pay CeeDee Lamb $30+ million. You got to pay Micah Parsons $30+ million. You're going to have to pay Dak $50+ million.
We don't want to hear it.
I'm just saying.
We're reeling, Richard. We're reeling. I can't even let my mind go there. I'm like Jerry after the game. He couldn't even think about tomorrow because he said he was so fixated on next Sunday's home game. That's where I was. That's kind of where I still am. I can't get out of it because, remember, this is the first time in NFL history a team has gone 12-5, 3 straight years, and not made it to an NFC championship game. As you point out, Richard, it's the first time a 7 seed has ever won a playoff game. It's the first time a 2 seed ever lost in the wild card round, and they didn't just lose. It was 48-16 with 6 minutes to go in the game. And what tears my guts out this morning is, just remember, Richard, you were down on CeeDee early, and then CeeDee said, okay, Richard, watch this. I'm not a fringy number one. I'm the guy. I'm number one. And over the last 12 games, there was no more lethal combination than Dak to CeeDee. And remember, going into yesterday, we had the number 1 offense in the league. And remember, going into yesterday, we had the 5th best defense in the league that led the league in quarterback pressures that got next to none yesterday and didn't sack Jordan Love one time. Just remember, we had the best special teams. We had the best kicker, the best punter, the best returner. And we were a nightmare yesterday. We looked like an uncoached wreck yesterday from the start. And back to Michael's first point, could we please show that this is, remember, we get it down to 3rd and 5, and we have a chance on their opening drive. They took the ball. They won the toss, and God bless them, they just said, watch this. And as Jordan Love said after the game, we came here with the mindset to dominate, and they did. They took the ball and ran it and threw it right down our throats, but it's 3rd and 5, 3rd and goal at the 5, and all of a sudden, I'm thinking, we got to if we can just hold them to 3 here, maybe we can sort of stop the bleeding and maybe get our legs back underneath us. And our leader on defense, our most veteran player on defense, DeMarcus Lawrence, if we could see it, jumps offside. It's like, this is what you don't want to see because it says we're not ready. It says we're poorly coached because, remember, the Dallas Cowboys also led the league in another category, penalties. They are the most penalized team, and as Michael said, they turn it right around, and on the next punt, they go down and commit such a stupid penalty on the punt, and you're saying you're just not ready to play.
Sam Williams.
Yeah, right. Sam Williams. Like, Sam Williams, well, what are you doing? Okay, that's the touchdown early, and this is the false start. Here's the false start on Tyler Smith, who, by the way, was the most penalized player in all of college football his last year at Tulsa, and he has been a mistake maker. But he's a great player, Michael. He made first-team All-Pro, voted by the players. So did Zach Martin. And where were they? I don't know.
Right.
I don't know.
Right, but listen, I can take some of Tyler holding because I like how Tyler plays. It's all them other jokers that making penalties that ain't making All-Pro. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. I'll take it All-Pro and his penalties because he's All-Pro. But them other jokers, come on, man. And my whole thing, Sherm, is how at this moment do you show up at that game in that mentality, with that mentality? CeeDee Lamb has been everything to this offense. When they took him out, they're like they had nowhere to go. No understanding of what to do. And if more people are on CeeDee Lamb, which it was, somebody else should be open. And if they can't get open, then I need a coach to scheme something to help them get open. And none of that happened. None of that happened. So it's not, you came in, you were not ready. You couldn't make any adjustments to get you going. Then what are we doing here?
Yeah.
What are we doing here? Yeah, because obviously this is not the situation.
No, it's not the situation, and it's killer instinct. It's killer instinct. That's what it comes down to in these playoffs. The Green Bay Packers were so young and so oblivious to the situation that everything is just routine for them. I'm sure LaFleur talked to him like that. He got his young guys hyped up. He said, hey, it's just another game. Go out there and do what you've done all season. Catch the ball. We'll get you open passes defensively. Let's get some stops. Jair Alexander fought to play in this game, made huge plays. Darnell Savage, they saw how predictable this Texas Coast offense is. Right. It's incredibly predictable. And I knew that in the playoffs, it would bite you in the butt. How many times have you seen CeeDee Lamb line up in the slot? It's a 3-by-1 formation, and they run all slants on 2nd and 2, 3rd and 2, 3rd and 3, 3rd and 4. It's the same plays over and over out of the same position, same formation, and you get away with it during the regular season. But in the playoffs, when coaches got nothing else to study but your tape and what you do, you have to find another way to beat them. You have to find creative ways to get to the things you love to do. You can't do them in the same routine ways. And if you can, then that just shows how dominant you are. Because some teams can. Some teams know what you know what my best shot is.
You know what? They don't have those guys. They don't. That's how we want. You don't have those players. That's why I need someone to make a design to help these guys get open. We will run a 5-route, Sherm. I don't care if you knew we were running it. We're running 17 back to 15. Jay would tell him, Michael's running a 5-route. You can't stop it. Don't matter. Doesn't matter. Troy's going to throw it. I'm going to catch it. We're going to run it. They don't have this. So now I need you to come up with something else. And that's why I say it was a coaching spanking. That's the reality of what happened. Darnell Savage, he Ed Reed, Troy Polamalu, he baited Dak on that interception. Did you see? He rolled with the first slant and then jumped to the second. That was nothing but a bait. He was waiting on it because he had watched the body language and the actions of CeeDee Lamb all day. He knew they wanted to get him the football. Right there, I can't put that play in any kind of a harm's way because I know they know we're trying to get our guy the football. They're looking at the body language. That was an easy pickup in a read. I was like, come on, man, give me a better play. This is the play I want you rolling outside. Don't throw garbage inside. This is too crucial of a drive and too crucial of a moment for us to be having. You needed a better coaching drive than that.
But sometimes it's the Jimmys and Joes. Like, I understand coaching can be better, no question about it. You can call better plays. But sometimes it comes down to the Jimmys and Joes. When we were in Seattle playing defense, you knew what we was running. We were running either man, 3, or if it's 3rd down, and we're running loose 2. If it's 3rd and long, we're running loose 2. We're running about 3 or 4 coverages. That's it. It's on tape. We're not really trying to disguise it that much, but we know when you come into town, you know exactly what we're doing, but we're better than you. We're better than you in every way. Chris Clemens, Michael Bennett, Cliff Averill, the front, Brandon Mebane, the linebackers, Bobby Wagner, KJ Wright, all world players. And then you got Cam, Earl, myself, Brandon Browner, freaking Jeremy Lane. You got so many players that show up that are killers in their own individual right. And you guys just don't have real killers. No. Your best player is Micah Parsons, and he is not a killer. And he's not a killer, and he hasn't been
a killer. Never been a killer.
Right. He hasn't got to be that promise made one man to the other. Each man is for the other. I'm going to get my job done. Yeah. Even and we don't have that commitment made to each other to even be on the football field.
But I keep hearing comparisons to LT from everybody. Pat this kid on the back, and he deserved a lot of it. First team All-Pro, first 2 years. Yep. But in these big moments, against San Francisco last year, this year, first round, you didn't even get to the divisional. I didn't even get to do my dance and say divisional and done.
No, you didn't.
I got to come up with a whole nother song with Wayne. One and done, and done, and all this other stuff. Like I was supposed to be in studio when y'all lost.
Yeah, Richard. Even you thought we would win that game yesterday. You told us so all year, be careful, but you thought we'd beat Green Bay because I'm pretty sure you picked Dallas to beat Green Bay, right?
Yeah, I said the same thing Irv said. If they get ahead on you earlier, and I said the same thing on my podcast, that's their only chance. If they get ahead early and they plant the seed of doubt in your head, then you know Dak Prescott has only been put out of the playoffs by a couple teams. And one of them is the Green Bay Packers and Aaron Rodgers. The other is the San Francisco 49ers. So I knew if they got ahead early, they would plant that seed of doubt and have your boys panicking and potentially have a chance to walk away with the win. I did not see them blowing you out. I thought you guys would show up in a bigger way. But
who saw that?
I couldn't have saw that.
Maybe Jordan Love. I don't know, right? Just remember, this was the all-time case of America's team turning into America's tease, as in teasing us, taking us right to the brink where it looked like it was meant to be. Michael and I kept saying, the Jimmy curse is broken. I don't know, maybe there's a Jerry curse. I don't know, because we had it in the palms of our hands. We had back-to-back home playoff games that we should have won. Whoever would come next week, whoever it would be, we could beat them at home. We could beat Green Bay. We could beat Detroit. We could beat Tampa if they win. And finally, we'd at least get back to our first NFC Championship game in 28 years. Philadelphia collapsed right on time to hand us the division. We had it. And then we didn't have it because this wasn't the typical Cowboys are an accident waiting to happen. This wasn't the typical Cowboys do Cowboys things. This was 27-0 before halftime. I'm in shock. Jerry's in shock. Jerry said, I'm floored. I was on the floor last night in the first half saying, what the hell was this? I've never seen it. It's such a disgrace that nobody saw coming. Go ahead.
Skip, that trash can at your house in your kitchen played better defense on you than your defense did on the Green Bay Packers, Skip. It at least got a few stops.
That was one take last night, and I did not miss. I fired every piece of my Cowboy paraphernalia. I didn't miss, and it's only about this big around, and I just went swish, 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 because I was on fire about how they weren't on fire. Okay.
Well, poor Ernestine. Poor Ernestine.
She did it. She did it again. Way to go. She's a trooper. That's it, man. Okay. This is what we got to get to next. If, in fact, Mike McCarthy is gone, Jerry Jones should hire ... Who?
Yeah, still speechless after the game. I agree with everything they say. I want everyone out of there. Everyone out of there. I want Dak out. I want McCarthy out. Dan Quinn out. All of them gone. We need Belichick. That's who we need. But I need to edit the video. Reaction to the video should be out tomorrow or Wednesday, though. Stay tuned.